We start with breaking news here in the UK. A legal bid to challenge the suspension of Parliament has succeeded at the appeal court in Edinburgh. A group of about 70 parliamentarians had appealed against an earlier ruling by a judge that the move by Prime Minister Boris Johnson to suspend Parliament was lawful. Mr Johnson's government says it will appeal against today's ruling at the UK Supreme Court. Well, the ruling of Scotland's highest court of appeal was delivered by Lord Calloway.
Each opinion expresses the view that the advice given by the Government to Her Majesty the Queen to prorogue Parliament from 9th September to 14th October was unlawful, and that therefore the prorogation itself is unlawful. The Court is conscious that its view differs from that of the Divisional Court of the Queen's Bench Division in England and Wales. The matter is likely therefore to require resolution by the United Kingdom Supreme Court.
So what should we make of this all? Lorna Gordon was outside the court in Edinburgh for us.
Well, you know, Edinburgh's Court of Session is the highest court here in Scotland. Edinburgh, of course, about 400 miles, what would that be, 500-600 kilometres from London, where the UK Parliament sits. But the decision taken here today will have ramifications far, far, far beyond the precincts of this court. All three judges sitting in what's known as the inner house of the Court of Session today ruled that the Prime Minister's advice to the Queen is justiciable, that means able to be judged upon, and that they say it was motivated by the improper purpose of stymieing Parliament and therefore unlawful. I mean, this is astounding, another astounding twist in the twists and turns of this Brexit drama. The court's now intervening, saying that this is an egregious case of a clear failure to comply with the generally accepted standards of behaviour of public authority. What will happen for now, though, is nothing. There is another case expected at the Supreme Court in London on Tuesday. So whilst they have ruled that the suspension of the UK Parliament is illegal, for now that suspension continues ahead of that full hearing at the Supreme Court, which starts on Tuesday.
And Lorna, can we also expect that there will be an appeal?
Yes, that's the government will appeal this decision, and that's why it will go all the way up to the Supreme Court, where all three cases, there is another case ongoing in Northern Ireland. Gina Miller had a case at the High Court in London last week as well. All three cases, as well as this one here in Edinburgh, will be rolled into one to be heard at the Supreme Court. Interesting, though, that the petitioners who brought this case, which was a group of more than 70 MPs and parliamentarians and peers, they are now calling for Parliament to be recalled ahead of the Supreme Court hearing. They say if not tomorrow, then by Monday at the latest.
And Lorna, what do people in Scotland make of the suspension of Parliament and what they're seeing happening in London?
Well, you know, Scotland is a country where a majority of people voted to remain as part of the EU, but there is a significant majority, of course, who voted to leave. I think, you know, the arguments that were made in court here are quite esoteric. They quote law from 300, 400 years ago. It's quite challenging stuff to follow. So people have been watching from a distance with interest, and I think, generally speaking, the issue of proroguing Parliament tends to divide along lines of whether you want the EU, the UK, to leave the EU by the 31st of October or not. That's a very big generalisation, of course, but I think it's fair to say that the greatest level of indignation at the proroguing of the suspension of Parliament is felt amongst those who want to remain as part of the EU.
Well, lots of reaction coming in. The opposition spokesperson for exiting the European Union, Sir Keir Starmer, welcomed this ruling.
It was obvious, I think, to everybody that not only was shutting down Parliament at this crucial time the obviously wrong thing to do, we should be sitting each and every day to resolve this crisis, but that the Prime Minister was not telling the truth about why he was doing it.